that Dan had a chance encounter at university that would go on to change the rest of his life. He met his soulmate, the love of his life. In fact, thanks for taking the punchline out. In fact, he didn't just meet one of us, he met four of us. Me, Jonan, Ed and Brett are sharing the best men duties today. But when he asked us all to fly to a foreign country to speak on his behalf, we got a bit worried. Because as many of you know, Dan often travels to places with less than straightforward prison systems. And imagine our relief that he wasn't seeking legal aid in North Korea, but instead he was just wanting some light stand-up comedy on the Italian Riviera. And Jonah and I thought long and hard about how to divide up this honour. And a plan slowly formed. I would discuss his good points. Jonah would take his bad ones. I could talk about his successes with women. Jonah could talk about the failures. I could wax lyrical about his successful business ideas. And Jonah would cover the ones that fell beside the wayside. So thanks very much, and I'm going to hand over to Jonah for the second half of the speech. But eventually, we decided on a chronological split. So I'm going to use the next few minutes to offer some advice to you, Emily, on how to avoid how to watch for the danger signs of Dan regressing to some of his earlier phases. Now the first one, I'm going to label the obsessive phase. So as we heard earlier in the speeches before dinner, obsessiveness and sticking to one thing underlies many of Dan's greatest successes. He was an accomplished sportsman, he trained extremely hard. As a teenager he played basketball for England and swam for his county. And then later on at university, he captained the Oxford basketball team to an impressive number of wins. But the time to get worried is when this obsessiveness becomes counterproductive. So Dan, an example of this is Dan and I used to go to the gym together. At the end of each session, without fail, he would challenge me to a bout of what he called burnouts. Now, burnouts, for those who don't know, involve bench pressing as many times as possible until you collapse on a heap in the floor. Now, to this day, I've never seen anyone hit the gym so hard and yet experience such little gain in muscle mass. Next, we come on to the in-betweeners phase. So this is this phase, this transition, this difficult period between sixth form and university. And when Dan arrived at uni, he was engaged in a variety of attempts to try and impress the ladies. And so at the end of each term, he used to arrive in his old Citroen, otherwise known as the Love Wagon, leave it idly outside his room while he put on Kevin Little's Turn Me On at full volume, and he would then saunter back and forth, flexing the odd bicep or showing off his new sheepskin jacket. This strategy inevitably did not work. So in second year, Dan and Jonan decided to join forces, and they moved into a room that they called the Staircase of Passion. Now, this description always puzzled me. I'm fairly sure I never saw a girl make it to the top of that staircase. Mainly because doing so would have required running the gauntlet of basketball kit that had never been washed for 2 years. Now, last but not least, we come on to the entrepreneurial phase. And this phase is characterised by a healthy desire to always want to beat the system. So you take Dan's impressive master's degree in chemistry at Oxford. Now this is not an easy course, so while I was preparing for this speech, I went on the Oxford website, where I'm reliably informed that a typical weekly timetable for a diligent student is 10 lectures per week, 2 afternoons of laboratory work, and a one-on-one tutorial. Not easy. I'm also reliably informed that Dan managed to avoid almost all of this by striking a deal with his friend Hamish. Hamish, where are you? Goes away. He struck a deal with Hamish that for 10% of all Dan's future income, the relevant lecture notes and tuition would be provided.
100%!
So I'm glad to say that Hamish, after waiting for 10 long years to invoke this verbal contract, you now have 120 public witnesses. So congratulations, mate, and don't spend it all at once. Now, Dan's entrepreneurial flair was also evident in the early days. He was one of the first among his mates to pass his driving test, and he used to cruise around Telford picking up people in the Citroen. But if you thought you were getting a free ride with Dan, you were mistaken. He kept a little jam jar under the handbrake. And if you rode in a love wagon, you had to pay for it. Empty your pockets of the coppers into the jar. Now this supposedly was for petrol, but it will now come in very useful to pay off Hamish. But while each of these phases show Dan finding his way in life, one thing has remained a constant. He's the most reliable and generous friend anyone could ask for. He's always checking in wherever he is in the world, and no matter how busy he is. And I know he's helped many of us here through some tough times. So as a measure of his loyalty, he was seriously considering flying back from Singapore for my stag do, at least until I explained it was going to be a night out in Stockport. Ems, I've had the honour of knowing you for almost as long as I've known Dan. You've somehow managed to keep most of those earlier phases at bay. You're one of the kindest people I know, and I've more treasured memories than the both of you than I know how to organise. You make a fantastic team, and I'm over the moon to be your friend. And I will be right there with you as you start married life, and I wish you many, many years of happiness. So before I hand over to Jonah for part 2, I would like you to charge your glasses and stand up for a toast to love and friendship.
I love it, that's how you mind it.